Today is March 31st, 2023, and it's been raining right outside, which is actually kind of nice. My window's open, so the air smells fresh, and you get that rain sound that's kind of relaxing, so kind of enjoying it today. And plus, when it's sunny out, I have this giant window in front of me, and it heats up the room to the point where it feels like a sauna, so having the clouds today just feels a little more comfortable in here. So I'm enjoying that. Connection requires vulnerability. It literally requires it. If you want to connect with another human being, you have to be able to be vulnerable. Because if you're not, you're literally creating walls in front of you that prevent the person from connecting with you. You have to let down your walls. You have to let them in and trust them if you want to have connection with them. And the reason this is important to think about, especially right now, is that the social media and the internet are literally doing the opposite of that. You might think that posting something from your life on the internet is being vulnerable, and sometimes it can kind of get there, but most of the time it's not. And most of the time people are trying to put forward the best version of themselves. They're trying to look really good, like they're really high status or rich or successful or beautiful or whatever it is. And it's literally causing isolation and disconnect between us. Vulnerability requires letting people know that you're not perfect, that you have flaws, that there are things you need help with in life. Vulnerability is a lot more uncomfortable. And most of the time, it's probably not going to happen online. Like I said, it can. But most of the time, like, the true connection that happens is face to face, in person. And if you don't have connection, there's never going to be love, like true love. You're just not going to be connected to other people. You're going to feel isolated and alone. And this phenomena has been around for a while. I don't know, maybe a decade ago, there was this saying like keeping up with the Joneses. And basically the Joneses were that perfect suburban family who had everything going for them. They had the perfect house, perfect car, perfect familial life. Everything just looked great for them. But the thing is, most of the time, there were a lot of problems behind closed doors, and people were extremely unhappy. You could drive through an entire neighborhood and everyone's life would look just beautiful and great and perfect, and then all of them probably had something going on behind closed doors. And even that phrase, behind closed doors, right? It's protecting yourself from being vulnerable. And so that was almost a meme. Like, if memes would have existed back then, keeping up with the Joneses was a meme, because it was just understood that if someone's life looked a little too perfect, there was probably something dark going on behind closed doors. And now with social media, it's only gotten worse. That drive to try and be the best, look the best, be the most successful, And there's nothing wrong with ambition. Like, it's okay to want to improve your life in some way. But it's when you start portraying it in a way that isn't even real. You're not willing to admit that you have any mistakes. You try and put this image forward rather than being vulnerable, which is what really creates connection. I mean, imagine, okay, let's go back to the Joneses, right? So imagine there's two families living right next door to each other. And let's say one of the families is having financial difficulties. They could handle it in a couple different ways. If they were trying to keep up with the Joneses, they might, continue driving the nice BMW and, spending money on credit cards so that they could have nice things to make it look like they're doing okay. And every time they'd interact with their neighbors, they could be pretending that everything is fine because they don't want to upset their neighbors or, dump all their problems on them. They'd probably like us better if they just thought we had everything together. Isolation, disconnect. The other way, the healthy way to deal with that situation would be to be vulnerable and say, like, go to that neighbor couple and be like, you know what? We're actually really struggling financially right now. My wife just lost her job and we can't keep up with the kids' school tuition and whatever. Just admitting that there's a problem. And when they do that, that would allow the other couple to come in and help them and come alongside them. And that's where connection comes in. The first way was competitive. It was, we have to look better than they do and make it seem like we're at least doing as well as them, if not better, even though we know there's problems and we're racking up credit card debt and all this stuff. Disconnection or connection through vulnerability. And you see, like, does anyone see how crazy it's getting? Like, what young people are doing today to try and be seen as successful or beautiful or just good enough. There's tons of teenage guys right now that are injecting testosterone and steroids to get this bodybuilder muscle build, and they're destroying their bodies in the process. There's young teenage girls getting lip injections and butt implants, trying to look as good as the latest beauty standard would have them look. Or even just, again, the financial thing. People are maxing out credit cards so that they can look like they're more successful, that they can drive a nicer car or whatever. And I've done some of this stuff. There was a time where I was very insecure with my position in life, and I tried to make it look like I was doing better than I was. And it was one of the most isolated I've ever felt. And these kids nowadays are literally destroying their bodies and destroying their lives trying to uphold this image. And it's not even getting them what they're wanting. They're getting attention. They're not getting connection. They're not getting love. Because I think behind all of this is this deep-seated desire for love and community and wanting to feel connected with people. And the internet and social media are promoting these online vehicles as a way to connect with other people. And yet, it's just attention. When you post a picture on Instagram and someone likes it, that heart doesn't mean that they love you. It means that they're giving you attention. And it feels good, It feels, in the short term, it feels nice to have that attention, but it's not connection, and it's not going to last. It's not going to be fulfilling. And I think even like the reason we see this rise in cases of transgender identity stuff going on, part of it's because it's just more talked about now and it's more promoted in society and culture. But I think a lot of it probably comes from a general isolation that's happening in society. That because people are more isolated and they're not connected and they don't feel loved, if they're not getting that, one way to deal with that is to rationalize it and say, there must be something wrong with me. Who I am as a person, I'm not able to connect with people and people don't seem to love me, so maybe there's something wrong with me and I need to change myself so that others will love me. I think that's a huge problem in society right now. And so, in order to fix this problem, it's going to require vulnerability. Why are rates of loneliness so high? Why are people reporting that they're having trouble finding mates and dealing with singleness and all of this stuff? It's because people are looking for attention rather than connection. It's because people are trying to portray themselves in a certain way to others rather than being vulnerable and sharing who they really are. And again, this doesn't just mean that you give up and be like, well, I am the way I am, so whatever, if people don't like it, too bad. No, I'm not saying just be satisfied with mediocrity. That's not what this is about. It's about striving for greatness, but giving an honest assessment of yourself, giving an authentic presentation of yourself to others, because that's what's going to help you connect with them. And you can connect over having goals and going after big achievements and things like that. That's one thing you can connect with people over. But you got to do it in a way that's authentic and honest. It's something that's going to lead to a greater sense of self-worth, just better friendships, relationships, everything. So if you want connection, try and be a little more vulnerable. That's all I got for today. Peace.